And welcome to Basildon Retire Well TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Simon Rogers. And Simon is president and CEO of Basildon Financial LLC. I love to toss in president and CEO because I love that. So, anyway, Simon, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, thanks. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I can't believe how fast the time goes from one show to the next. The weeks go by, and
Yeah.
I know that you've been so extremely busy. So let's talk about that. I know a lot of the past we've talked about taxes and inflation. Are you getting a lot of questions about that right now?
Oh my God, there's so many people because there was a concern always with the debt, the mounting debt, but because of COVID, it has generated three major issues for people are very, very concerned about, and they should be, which is we printed a ton of money, so they're very concerned, and the Biden administration has been talked about raising taxes.
Yeah.
So, how do we pay off this money and this debt that they just created? So taxes are going to go up. What do I do about that in retirement? Then inflation.
Yeah.
We've seen it, whether it's at the gas pump or lumber or at the grocery store, we've seen those prices go up. How am I going to handle this if I'm in retirement for 20, 30 years? Like it's hurting me this year.
Oh,
This one last year alone. What if this keeps going on?
Yeah.
And then market volatility. People are like, this isn't right. They just have a gut sense, even if they don't know all the data, like why is the market so high after this devastation of locking down the economy? So those three things, yeah, absolutely. People are just very skittish, and they should be.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more in depth, if we can, about inflation, Simon, because obviously when you were speaking of that, to me, in my mind, I'm thinking that is a huge risk for someone who's on fixed income, if you will. If you have the price of your goods going up more and more each year, what is a person to do?
Yeah, that is critical. You definitely, and that speaks to managing your nest egg properly, because you need another stream of income. You need another bucket to go to support yourself. So if you retire, and I cringe when people, I got enough money to retire. You do today. Your income is enough today with Social Security and maybe a pension, but the typical retiree is going to last, the life expectancy is, say, roughly around 89.
Okay.
But it's important to know 1 out of 4 people live past 90. So especially if you're a husband and wife. So don't think I just got to make it to 89 and I'm done. But, because you could be easily the ones that go.
Sure.
I had a client whose aunt was 106 when she died in the nursing home.
Wow. Okay.
But so you're 65 today, that's 24 years. If you have just a mere 3% inflation, right now we're about 2.2% inflation. I will argue all day with how they calculate inflation, because they're playing with the numbers. In our opinion, it's higher than that, and it feels higher than that when you go out to the grocery store or the gas pump. But 2.2, and it's creeping up. At a 3% inflation rate, by the time you hit 89, your need for income is going to double. It's not going to double when you hit 89, but it goes up each year. And so if your retirement need is $60,000 when you retire at 60, and let's say you have $80,000 coming in with pension and Social Security, don't think, and you think I got a big buffer of 20 grand. That buffer is not going to take you to 89, because you may, by the time you get to 89, you're going to need $120,000.
Wow. So what is a viewer to do? I mean, how do people plan for this and prepare for this, Simon? That's probably the question that everyone across the board is thinking in their mind right now as they're watching us this morning.
Yeah, and I think it's critical to understand that most firms are just deal with money and deal with investments, and don't do inflation planning, don't do proactive tax planning for the long haul. and don't do volatility planning. Okay, so we've been doing all of that since we've opened our doors 15 years ago.
Okay.
So you need a plan that if you're sitting there and your your financial advisor hasn't asked for your tax return, then I'd be willing to bet there's no tax planning in your retirement plan.
Sure.
They need to look at your tax return every year and plan off it. If there's been no discussion and you've never had these subjects come up of what happens to inflation, if they've never even told you that in that scenario your need is going to double, then you got to wonder, is it even in your plan?
Yeah.
Have they even put it in their plan? And not all our firms are the same. We are different. It takes a unique, individual, independent firm like us, boutique, I like to call it a boutique firm, that we do
Sure.
custom plans. Everybody walks in the door, gets a plan unique to them, but we cover those areas.
Okay, okay. Because it is so important to talk about that. A lot of people in the viewing audience, they may be working with someone who specializes in the growth years, if you will, but not so much in the distribution, and that's a difference.
Yeah, yep. I like to give this analogy. So if you have a heart condition, you want a heart surgeon. But if you got a brain issue, you may be the best heart surgeon in the world. You don't want them operating on your brain, right?
Right.
So you have, in two large categories, you have growth advisors and growth firms, and they're usually the big box firms that, I want to name names, but if I named them, everybody knows the name,
Sure,
okay?
sure.
And I cut my teeth in this industry in one of them.
Okay.
So, and then you have the small boutique firms like us that do distribution planning. They're two totally different animals. They require two totally different skill sets, knowledge base, and experiences, and often tools, because it's kind of easy to grow a nest egg. If the market goes down, you're buying low and you're adding to your nest egg. You just rebalance the portfolio, you keep the risk tolerance in play.
Yeah.
The critical part and the most important part is the distribution part, where you're starting to pull out, because now
Sure.
the market goes down and you pull out, you can get into a lot of trouble.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Simon, I know you have a special offer that you're going to be giving to the viewers at home today. Let's talk a little bit about what that is and then open up the phone lines.
Yeah, we'd like to offer the viewers a second opinion today. If you are working with a financial advisor, come in. It's a complimentary appointment with us. Meet with us, see how different we are and how our planning is different. And then at the end of the day, I always say, you're the boss of my office. You decide what's best for you. The worst case scenario in that is that you go home and sleep better with peace of mind that you've looked at it twice and that now you're very comfortable with your existing plan. Or you may find out that, what, my existing plan didn't cover it because my firm doesn't cover the services that Basildon covers, and I need a firm like Basildon's to handle market volatility, to handle tax increases, to handle inflation. That just wasn't in my plan, and I need a plan that Basildon offers.
Thank you so much, Simon. To the viewers at home, the phone lines are now open. That number to call is 877-441-4901. You've worked your entire life to get to the retirement years. Don't you deserve to have a plan in place, one that can weather any storm? Simon is giving you that opportunity today, but you have to be one of the first 10 callers. That number is 877-441-4901. We have to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We're going to have so much more with Simon when we return.
Both my parents started off as university professors in England, so I think teaching's in my blood. What we do is very complicated, but we lay it out in a way that is very easy to understand.
It's just a matter of being able to convey the information that they need most to make the best decision for them.
You don't have to do what we do for a living to take a look at our plan and within a couple minutes totally grasp it. When you're teaching, you're really helping somebody learn. So I have a genuine love and desire and kind of a need really to help people. I think that comes from my heart. In England, you name your house, like we name our dog. Every house has a name. And the house that my father was born at is my grandmother's house, and the name of her house was Basildon. Whenever I was over there, I felt safe, and I felt loved, and I felt taken care of, and I felt everything was okay. I strive to have our clients feel that same way.
Should something devastating happen, the last thing that they need to think about is, am I covered? Am I secure? How is this going to affect me financially? I think they need to focus on being well and spending time with the ones that they love.
They feel secure in that they can depend on us to do what we say we're going to do, to help them make the decisions that they need to make.
And welcome back to Basildon Retire Well TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Simon Rogers. He is CEO of Basildon Financial, LLC. Simon, a wonderful show that we're having today, talking about such an important topic, planning properly for retirement.
Yeah.
We've talked about the written plan, how it can be adjusted for inflation, if you will. But what about taxes? Can it be adjusted for taxes as well?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it has to be, right? Because I mean, Trump just changed a couple of years ago our tax code. It's going to change again, and we think in likelihood it's going to go up. So, you know, our one-page plan. Now, a great deal of work has gone into this one-pager, right? And so clients can ask all kinds of questions, and then we can get into it. But the beauty of it is within 5 minutes you can grasp it, and then we start going into the questions. But there's the elements of taxation in there, inflation and market volatility are built into the plan. Once we have the basic plan, we can toggle it within a click of a mouse. We can change things like inflation or tax rates so that we can actually stress test the plan. You know, this is so critical. When you have no plan, okay, in retirement, it's almost like taking your car from Harrisburg and I want to go to vacation in California, and I'm just going to point the car west and hit the gas. Like, nobody would do that. Right? Nobody would do that.
No.
So, and when you have, I would say, half a plan. So if we look at the big box retailers that just handle the investments and don't ever talk to you about your taxes, and here's a red flag. If your advisors never ask for your tax return, guess what? Chances are, very high chance, that there is no tax planning in your plan.
Wow. Okay.
If they've never brought up inflation concerns and how that affects your plan and walked you through every year. Our plans take you from today and every single year of your retirement, and they have every penny of income and where the sources are and how they change. So pensions typically don't grow at all, so that's a flat line. Social Security typically goes up on the average of 1.7%, so that's increasing. Then we have fill in the gaps with usually IRA withdrawals. The other part of all this, these numbers are changing, and each number gets applied a different tax rate. So you could potentially have no taxation on your Social Security, or up to 85% of your Social Security benefits be taxable.
Wow. Okay.
Pensions are 100% taxable. You could have a non-qualified account that could be a tax deduction or a tax burden to you. IRA accounts are typically 100% taxable. So, you know, not only are there different tax rates applied to each stream of income, but each stream of income is changing usually over the years. Most of them are. The pensions typically aren't, but the others are. So how does that affect things? And when one changes, it can make another taxable. So in other words, you could start off in your retirement with not paying any taxes on your Social Security, and in later years, because you need more income due to inflation, you got to pull more withdrawals from your IRA, and then suddenly your Social Security is now taxable.
Wow. Okay.
So you have to look at all that. And to me, our plans cover absolutely everything. It's like mapping your trip to California, where we're going to go, okay, how long are you going for? And what routes are you going to take? What roads are you going to drive on? And then where are you going to stop to spend the night? How much does that cost? Where are there any sites you want to see along the way? When you get there, how long are you going to stay there? What do you want to do? How much does that cost? And we're putting a budget to all that.
Yeah.
And then we're making sure you don't run out of money before you're on your
Yeah.
way back and you're in Nevada and you're like, uh-oh, I don't have any money to get back to PA. So, every single thing is accounted for in our plans. And if you are not going to drive to California without doing that kind of planning, why would you enter in retirement, your longest vacation ever, without doing that kind of extensive planning? And it's typically not found at most financial advisory firms.
Simon, I should also ask you about market volatility. Does that factor into how you design a plan? Does it help to weather that storm if it comes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a known. It's a market. The stock market has always been volatile.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Over the long haul, it goes up. Pick 2 points, and
Yeah.
it's usually higher if you have enough of a time gap. But it can be rough waters in between. So there's ways to mitigate that. If you have a plan or an advisor, and your only tool in retirement is the stock market, that's a major, major red flag. That's a call the number now and get an appointment with us and see how it's done differently. Because when that market will inevitably go down. And when it does, if you're pulling money out of it, you're going to do a mathematical damage to that nest egg that you potentially could never recover from. So there's other ways to handle it. Yes, we use the market, right? Our clients are in the market. It's still a great long-term growth tool, but it can be a horrible and very damaging tool if the market goes down and you're pulling withdrawals, you're selling low, you damage the nest egg, and then the nest egg's not there to carry you through the rest of your retirement.
Which can be terrifying for someone when they're planning out their retirement years, because the number one fear, and maybe this has changed, but isn't it running out of money, Simon?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and they do all these surveys, like what's the number one fear in retirement? But isn't that the number one fear at any stage of life? Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
it's
working,
true.
you don't want to run out of money.
That
Like,
is true.
That's
That is
like
true.
horrible. So, I think it's higher up on the concern, or people, or it's a heightened concern because I'm no longer working, and maybe I don't want to go back to work, or I can't physically. And so now it's not an option. So now you're completely dependent on your streams of income and your nest egg. You don't have an option to go back to work, where if you lose a job or something when you're younger, you can always get another job. That concern that's always there gets heightened a lot when you're in retirement.
Sure, because basically you're responsible for paying yourself. You don't have an income check coming in
I love
anymore,
that.
if you will, but you are basically in charge of your own income.
Yes, I love that. That's a
Okay.
great way to put it. And since you're responsible for making sure that your plan is the right plan and that
Yeah.
it makes sense to you, and you understand it, and it covers all the things we're talking about. That's on you.
Well, Simon, I know you have a special offer that we're going to present to the viewers at home today. Let's talk a little bit about that and then reopen the phone lines.
Yeah. So the offer is to get one of our plans. It's complimentary. You come in, meet with us. If you're working with an advisor, you can compare our plan side by side with their plan, and you make the decision what's best for you. If you're not working with an advisor, you you need some kind of plan. Just don't point the car west to California and hit the gas. There's so many things that could go wrong. And I'll say this, with our plans, each year we meet with our clients. Once the plan's in place, you're looking at 25, 30 years in retirement, a lot can change. And not just the topics we're talking about with market volatility, taxes, and inflation, but your life. Your life throws you curveballs. So each year we meet with our clients, and more often than once a year if needed, to adjust the plan to make sure that, if we're doing, to keep with that analogy, we're driving to California, we don't hit a small fork in the road in Carlisle and wind up in Seattle, right? So you've got to keep looking at that plan and making sure you're on target, because the time to correct that missed turn in Carlisle is not when we get to Ohio, but it's when we're still in Carlisle.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you, Simon. To the viewers at home, the phone lines are now open. That number to call once again is 877-441-4901. We know you have a lot of questions about how to retire comfortably, retire with confidence. Simon is offering you the opportunity to call in today to have a plan designed just for you. That number is 877-441-4901. We have to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to have viewer questions, and one of those questions may be your very own. Stay tuned.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
And welcome back to Basildon Retire Well TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Simon Rogers. He is CEO of Basildon Financial, LLC. Simon, I know we both love this part of the show every week.
Yeah.
We have viewer questions, and we never know where they're going to come from, what topics they're going to want to have more information about, but this is a great one. Are you ready?
Yeah, all set.
This is a good one. Simon, why hasn't my broker ever brought up tax planning to me?
Ooh.
I know. I
okay.
know. It's a great question. Why
I-
hasn't my broker?
Okay, so not all financial advisory firms and advisors are the same. I mean, you have that in the medical field. Not all doctors are the same. Okay, there's specialists, and then there's general practitioners, and some offer certain services and some don't. I cut my teeth in this industry when I first joined at what we've referred to in the industry as a big box retailer. It's a firm that everybody would recognize if I said the name, and it was a publicly traded company. And the number one job of a CEO is to make sure that the stock price goes up and not down. And the stock price is judged by earnings per share. So how much profit does the company have? So from top-down management, CEO on down, we're told, focus on things that bring the company revenue and don't focus on things that are a waste of time in the sense of it's not bringing the company revenue. And tax planning for an advisor to sit down with a CPA and work hand in hand to add this layer of planning onto your plan doesn't bring any revenue in. So, and furthermore, it also exposes the firm to liability because if they do it wrong, then there's a potential of a lawsuit there.
Sure.
So it's top-down management. Don't do that, doesn't earn any revenue. Focus on the activities that bring the firm revenue. And that's why I left, honestly.
Yeah.
I couldn't,
Yeah,
I
see
knew
why.
there was better planning that we could do for our clients, and I just couldn't stay there any longer. And not that it was anybody's getting harmed, but you're just not giving the best service you
Sure.
possibly can. And that was driving me crazy. I wanted to feel good about what I did for a living and sleep at night and be able to look in the mirror and be able to deliver what I knew was the best I could deliver to my clients.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Simon. This is a great question as well. Can you give me an example, please, of your tax planning? Because I am not sure I understand.
Okay, great
Tax
question.
planning.
I give you one brief example. So most people retire with 401ks and they convert them, roll them into an IRA. That money has never been taxed. That money is 100% taxable. So during our retirement years, can we convert that to a Roth IRA? So a Roth IRA, you prepay the taxes, and then it grows tax-free. Now, if you can do that early on in retirement when your income tax brackets are lower, and you can create now a bucket, a Roth bucket that is now tax-free growth. So later in life, as I've mentioned in other shows, where because of inflation, your income needs are rising and you have to take more money out of your IRA accounts, you now have a Roth bucket that you can go to and pull the money from because you converted it earlier. Look, you're going to pay taxes on that withdrawal regardless. So we look at, does it make sense? Is it mathematically to your advantage? Obviously, if it's not, we don't do it. But to siphon some of that money off into a Roth account, and we're going to have to pay taxes doing that. But then that is tax-free growth, and then later on we can pull from that, and we can keep the client in the same tax bracket 30 years later as when they retired.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Simon. This is a great question, too. We have time for one more. I am curious, why does your firm offer all of these services and mine does not?
Well, I kind of answered that a little bit. It depends on the firm, and again, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm a bit driven to be the best we can be, and that's why I left the big box retailer and started Basildon Financial 15 years ago. Was because to provide all these services. So a lot of these other advisors, their hands are tied, and often the training that they're given at the job, on the job, they don't even cover these topics because the company doesn't want them to do it.
Interesting.
So, I'm somebody that is never satisfied. Honestly, I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly digging. I'm constantly tearing apart our own planning and going, is it okay? Is it okay? Is it okay? Can this be better? Can this be better? And that's how we got where we are now.
Well, Simon, we have less than a minute left of the show this week. Any final tidbits of advice you want to share with the viewers at home before we close?
I would say to take this very seriously. This is the biggest vacation of your life. You don't want this to go badly, and you need the time to look at it is early stages and make sure you have all your bases covered, because if you get off track early, it won't show up till years down the road when it's too late. So make sure whatever plan you have covers all these bases: taxes, inflation, market volatility, up front, so that you're good years
Simon,
later.
Thank you so much. To the viewers at home, thank you for spending time with us. That number to call is 877-441-4901. Thank you for watching.